Hello everyone. In this video, we are going to study about the topic Secretarial Practice of Standard 12th. As you all know, we have now come to the final countdown. That is, we are now going to have the final examination. And so, with relation to it, I am here going to discuss certain aspects. So before we start with this video, let me introduce myself. I am Manjusha Gungale and I am from SV Union Junior College, Somwarpet. In this video, we will be studying three topics. Firstly, about the HSC board question paper pattern. Secondly, we will be discussing about the weightage for chapters. And third, we will be discussing certain important topics chapter-wise. So let us begin with this. Firstly, we will be starting with the format of SP question paper. We all know that the question paper is of 80 and 20 marks. 20 marks is your application-based test, which will be taken internally by the college. In this, there will be objective questions as well as case studies. And we have an 80 marks question. And so, in this 80 marks question paper, there are various questions that will be taken up. So let us begin now with the format of the SP question paper. Firstly, question number 1, we have the objective questions. There are 10 types of objective questions. Out of this, any 4 will be asked. Please remember over here that all types of objective questions are important. It cannot be predicted as to which objective questions may be asked. If those questions are asked in the application-based test, doesn't mean that it won't be asked again over here. So, my suggestion and my advice is that do all the objective questions very nicely. You are having 20 marks for this. That means there will be 4 types will be asked, and out of that, for every 4 types, there will be 5 questions that will be asked over here. Next, we have question number 2. Explain the following terms or concepts. Here, there will be 6 questions will be asked and you are supposed to attempt any 4. 2 marks are allotted to each term and you are supposed to attempt these 4 marks and you will be having 8 marks for this. Please remember over here that at least 2 points are expected. It will be better if you are going to give it out in the point format. Next question we have, that is, study the following cases or situation and express your opinion. This question is also asked in the application-based test. So, you can now imagine how important this question is. So please pay proper attention to all the cases in all the chapters. You will be having all the chapters for the case studies. Chapter number 6, 7 and 8 are for letter writing. Therefore, there won't be any cases from those chapters. There will be only letters that will be asked. Rest of the chapters, you have the cases. Here, you also have to remember that if any questions are of yes and no type, please do not just give yes and no. Give a reason stating whatever is the question that is going to be asked. So give a sentence related to it. 3 cases will be given and you are supposed to attempt any 2 out of it. Next question, we have distinguish between. Again here, you will be asked 4 questions, out of which you are supposed to attempt any 3. 4 marks are there for this and you have to give 4 points. Now remember over here, give 1 point, that is your first point, as the meaning, and rest give 4 points. It is always better to have at least one extra point, but always give the first point as the meaning and give those points which are really distinguishable. Also, give the point of distinction. That is, you are going to give the point of distinction and you will be giving out the question. For example, you have equity shares and preference shares. So give out first the meaning of it and then followed by all the 4 types or the 4 points that are supposed to be expected over here. Always let your first point be meaning. Let us move on to the next question. Answer in brief. So here any 2 will be you're supposed to attempt out of 3. 4 marks are there for this. Now over here you will be asked to give out the answer, and whatever will be the answer, please see to it that you are again going to give out in points. It is always better to write out your answer in points itself. Then we have the next question, that is justify the following statements. Again here 4 marks are allotted and you are supposed to attempt any 2 out of 4. 8 marks are allotted to this question. Now this is justification. It is not true or false, or it is not agree or disagree. So all the statements are true itself. You only have to justify. For example, equity shareholders are the owners of the company. So you will be giving out the justification in support of that statement. It is not a wrong statement. It is a correct statement. So here give out those 4 points. After you give out those 4 points, you can justify or you can write at the end a concluding statement. Therefore, the above statement is this. Therefore, equity shareholders are the owners of the company. Then the next question, attempt the following. Now this particular question is totally dedicated to letter writing. 3 letters are going to be asked, out of which you are supposed to attempt any 2. So we all know there are 3 chapters, that is correspondence with members, correspondence with debenture holders and correspondence with depositors. So out of these 3, any 2 letters are going to be, 2 chapters are going to be asked. Of that, any 2 letters will be asked over here. In this question, see to it that you're going to give out the format properly. And here there are 5 marks which you can totally get all the 5 marks in this. Remember that if at all you only give out the format and you do not give the content of the letter, you stand to get a 0. Therefore, the format, only given format, will not have any validity. No marks will be given to it. So see to it that you're going to give out the content properly in these letters. Then the last question in this, that is answer the following. This is a long question and here any one you're supposed to attempt. 2 questions will be asked over here. And so any one you're supposed to attempt over here. So this ends with the question paper pattern. Now we move on to the next, that is unit wise weightage for the chapters. All the units, the chapters that are there, are divided into 6 units. So we will go one by one. First we have sources of corporate finance. The first unit is containing the 2 chapters, that is Introduction to Corporate Finance and Sources of Corporate Finance. Marks allotted to this without option is 17 and marks with option are 25. This particular chapter, Introduction to Corporate Finance, is introducing about corporate finance as to what is this, what is the meaning of finance. Second chapter, Sources of Corporate Finance, is comparatively very important. Please pay special attention to this chapter, Sources of Corporate Finance. Here there are chances of a long question, that is an 8 marks question. Second we have second unit, Capital Raising. There we have 3 chapters, that are issue of shares, issue of debentures and deposits. Total marks allotted are 24 and marks with option are 35. As you can observe, the highest marks have been given to these 3 chapters together. That is with option also you have 35 and without option you have 24. And so these 3 chapters are very, very important. Especially the 3rd chapter, issue of shares. And so this particular chapter also you can expect a long question of 8 marks. Issue of debentures and deposits. Here there are as such no long questions. Unit 3 is secretarial correspondence, that is correspondence with members, correspondence with debenture holders and correspondence with depositors. These 3 chapters, there are 13 marks allotted, and with option you have 18 marks. That means 3 letters are going to be asked from each chapter, and so you have 5 plus 5 plus 5 plus 3. Means you will have to give importance to all the letters in these chapters. And 3 marks you can be asked over here. It can be explain the terms and an objective or 3 objectives. Depends. Okay, so please pay attention to the letters part in these 3 chapters. You can also do 2 chapters very nicely. Then, unit number 4, that is the depository system. For this chapter, that is depository system, 7 marks are allotted, and with option you have 11 marks. Unit 5, payment of dividend and interest. You have the 10th chapter, that is dividend and interest. For this chapter, without option you have 9 marks, and with options you have 13 marks. Unit 6, financial market. There are 2 chapters, financial market and stock exchange. For these 2 chapters together, there are 10 marks, and with option you have 14 marks. Total your paper is of 80 marks, and with option you have 116. That means you're supposed to attempt an 80 marks question out of this. Now, let us move on to the next topic, that's important topics chapter wise. So, we have seen what is the weightage. Now, based on that, I have certain topics over here which are quite important. In the first chapter, Introduction to Corporate Finance, we have corporate finance and the 2 decisions that are the basis of corporate finance. That is the 2 decisions, that is the investment decision and the finance decision. So this you can expect for 4 marks question. Distinguish between fixed capital and working capital is again for 4 marks. Fixed capital and factors affecting fixed capital requirement, that is for 4 marks. And working capital and factors affecting working capital requirements can be asked for 4 or either 8 marks. Then question number 2, sources of corporate finance. This chapter is comparatively very important, and so please pay special attention to this chapter, because this is the base of all the chapters ahead that we are going to study. Therefore, please pay special attention to this chapter. Distinguish between, we have equity shareholders and preference shareholders, shares and debentures, owned capital and borrowed capital. And so these are asked for 4 marks. Then we have here shares, meaning and features, equity shares, meaning and features, preference shares, meaning and features and also types, debentures, meaning and features, types. Now, these 4 topics can be asked for 4 marks or they can be asked for 8 marks also. So, prepare for 8 marks, and if it is going to be asked for 4 marks, it won't go difficult. Then we have global depository receipts, bonds, deposits. So these topics, they can be asked for 4 marks. Then we move on to the next. We then have the 3rd chapter, that is issue of shares. There are 2 methods to make public offer, that is IPO and FPO. Then we have types of shares offered to its existing equity shareholders, rights issue and bonus issue. Then the 3rd topic that we have, provisions for allotment of shares, general and statutory. Now, from these 3 chapters, we can expect for 4 marks as well as for 8 marks. Provisions for allotment of shares, we can have general provisions for 4 marks and statutory provisions we can expect for 8 marks. Then there are some small topics for 4 marks, like we have ESOS, Employee Stock Option Scheme, or we have ESPS, Employee Stock Purchase Scheme, book building method, share certificate, duplicate share certificate, transfer of shares, transmission of shares. So these are all small topics for 4 marks. Then distinguish. I will mention over here that all the types of distinguish are very important over here. Then we have the fourth chapter, issue of debentures. There are 4 provisions of Companies Act 2013 and the procedure for issue of debentures. So please do these 2 topics very nicely from these chapters. Then fifth chapter, deposits. We have amount of deposits collected by different types of companies, contents of circular or advertisement for deposits, terms and conditions regarding acceptance of deposits. So these 3 topics are very important in this chapter, and so these are going to be asked for 4 marks. Even for chapter number 4, issue of debentures, we have the topics for 4 marks each. Then we have the next 3 chapters, that is correspondence with members, correspondence with debenture holders, and correspondence with depositors. From these 3 chapters, 1 letter is going to be asked. So all the letters are very important in this chapter. Then the next we have, that is the 9th chapter, depository system. In this, important topics are depository system, meaning and advantage to investors and to companies. Now this can be asked separately for 4 marks. Together it may not be asked. Then we have the depository, again for 4 marks, depository participant for 4 marks, constituents of depository system, it is asked for 2 marks. If at all there is a question, that is what are the constituents of depository system, for 8 marks. Okay, so please be ready for that also. Then the next we have is the 10th chapter, payment of dividend and interest. In this we have distinguished between, which is very important, final dividend and interim dividend. Then we have dividend and interest, distinguish. So this is also quite important. So this is asked for 4 marks. Then we have dividend, the meaning and features, and interest, meaning and features, which is for 4 marks each. Legal provisions for sources of dividend, declaration of dividend, and payment of dividend. Then we have one more important topic, unpaid and unclaimed dividend. So from this chapter, probably we will be having 4 marks questions. We then have the 11th chapter, that is financial markets. Financial markets, meaning and functions. It can be asked for 4 marks also and for 8 marks also. Probably for 8 marks. Then we have money market, meaning and instruments, capital market, meaning and instruments. So here, this also can be asked for 4 marks each. Distinguish between primary market and secondary market, and money market and capital market are quite important in this chapter. Chapter number 12, we have stock exchange, the meaning and functions, and SEBI, its functions. These 2 questions you can expect for 4 marks. Now this entire topics that have been taken over here are as per the board, that is the decision that they have taken up to deduct 30% of the portion. So based on that, I have taken up these important topics. Thank you everyone, and wish you all the best for your exams. Thank you.